Welcome to Breaking the News Plus on this Monday night. Something happened in a Minnesota court early this morning, or started, that has taken 15 months to get to, and that is the trial of Senator Nicole Mitchell. She's accused of burglary, and it's got a lot of details that have kept a lot of people interested, but it's taken some time to get to this point. To talk about it, we have Raguse on the show tonight. He will be covering this trial. So, Lou, when we say the trial starts today, what it means is the questioning of a jury starts today, picking jurors, right?
Right. That's technically the first day, but we expect opening statements to start pretty shortly. Like in a normal sense, it could have been today, but it looks like it'll probably be tomorrow now.
This case is in Becker County because the scene of the crime is Detroit Lakes.
Yep. And that is the home of Senator Nicole Mitchell's stepmother. So Nicole Mitchell's parents divorced. Her dad remarried this woman. Her name is Carol Mitchell. That's going to be public information throughout the trial. Her father passed away at some point.
Senator Mitchell's dad.
Yes. Somewhat recently prior to the alleged crime. And what happened was Senator Mitchell was arrested in the basement bathroom of her stepmother's house. And according to the criminal complaint, she said in front of the police and to her stepmom, "I'm just getting some of Dad's things because you wouldn't talk to me anymore."
But she got into the house. So she's not trying to say it wasn't me, I didn't do it, somebody else broke in.
Yeah, I mean, you might say she was caught red-handed.
Okay.
But it's not. Some people might think it's an open and shut case. The defense is going to say this isn't an open and shut case. And the reason is because of the relationship that exists here. This is not, she wasn't in a stranger's house. She was in her stepmother's house where she has come and gone freely and had been many, many times before. And they're also going to say that she wasn't there to steal or commit a crime. She was there to get things that were essentially hers or were meant to be given to her from her father.
Her father's ashes.
That was one of the items, yes.
And some other, like computer maybe or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the nutshell defense of Senator Mitchell. She was not getting these things through regular channels from her late dad's wife, and so she took matters into her own hands.
Yes.
But the look of it, she broke into
and
the
not
house.
just that, there are some contradictions to what she said. Because right after she was arrested, she posted on social media that she went there to check on her loved one, on her stepmother. And so we're like, wait a second. And then when the charges were filed, it's like, okay, well, you were dressed in all black with a flashlight, admitting on the scene that you were trying to take stuff. So that kind of contradicts that I was there to check on her.
And a crowbar, right?
Yeah, so she claims the crowbar was not hers.
I see.
But the crowbar was found in the window well.
Okay.
And so she's also charged with possession of burglary tools because if you use a crowbar to break in a house, that's a burglary tool.
And she went in through the window well?
Yes. So she admitted that she went in through a basement window. And by that basement window, they found a crowbar. So, but she claims that it wasn't hers.
I see. Okay. So that's kind of where we have things. And so now we get to a trial that has taken 15 months since the alleged crime. And that it took this long because obviously Senator Mitchell is a sitting senator, Democrat. And there was some consternation between the parties of should she stay? Republicans tried to get her out. She stayed on. Leadership said she gets due process, deserves her day in court.
Yeah, not only that, but her defense lawyers found a law that essentially says she can't have a trial during the session.
Right.
And this, I don't know why they didn't find this sooner, but it kind of came up during the last session like, okay, now we have to delay the trial because it says here the trial was all set to go during the session.
Well, we like to think as a state that we don't have a lot of, felony charges against our sitting senators and House members, but it is 2025, so we'll just leave that there. And then it gets postponed again after the assassination of Melissa and Mark Corbin and the attempted assassination of the Hoffmans. So now we get to today where we pick a jury. And the question in my mind is, this jury in Becker County, they've probably heard of the case, but I know that, and we can go over, like, the public thinks that if you've heard of it, it bounces you from a jury. That's not true. We can go over why that is. But I'm curious as to how you pick a jury that is going to be fair when politics are involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like if she were a Republican, how would we know that some diehard Democrats would not lie and say, well, I can be impartial, but they, get my drift here?
Yes. So I did an interview today with a legal analyst, someone who had a long career as a prosecutor in Anoka County. Now he's on the defense side, so he's seen both sides. And he says the best way to think of jury selection is not selection, but rather elimination.
Okay.
And it's the job of each side to eliminate the jurors that are not going to go their way. Mm-hmm. Now, the judge is supposed to eliminate the ones that are so biased that they can't be fair. That's supposed to be like a free elimination. But then when it gets down to like if somebody claims they can be fair and you're a little skeptical, you're trying to figure out, are they telling the full truth about something? Then they have strikes and they can strike out certain jurors. The defense gets way more strikes than the prosecution.
Okay.
Because it's, they're the ones whose life is on the line, so to speak. So they have more strikes. And so theoretically, they should be able to end up with a jury that favors the defense more than the prosecution if that's possible.
Okay. Because of just the way that's how the scales of justice look. The defense should
to make
get
it as
more
fair
tries.
as possible.
Okay. Okay. Any indication so far as they start selection today that you're getting of what kind of jury we're looking at, or we have?
No, not yet. Not yet. By tomorrow morning, we should have a better idea on the whole jury makeup and so forth. But so far, no. And you hit a few points correct on, like, this is a small county. Mm-hmm. Trials are different in a small county than they are in Hennepin County or Ramsey County, in that you might get jurors who actually know the people involved, and it doesn't kick them out right away.
Oh, so they could know
they could know Carol Mitchell.
Yeah, Carol Mitchell or Nicole Mitchell.
Yeah, or I've heard of her, and that's not going to be a elimination automatically. Okay. So then they're going to have to say, well, are you friends? If it's friends, then they'll get kicked out. If it's just somebody that they know from around town, I mean, you wouldn't be able to seat a jury in a small town if you had eliminated them just based off of knowing somebody. Right,
and the same with knowing each other, right? Because I'm from a small area of the country, and I know you are too. Mm-hmm. I can imagine a jury in the county I'm from, the jurors are going to know each other in some way, shape, or form, or know of each other, as we say.
And then you're also hitting on the politics of it. Well, Becker County leans Republican for sure. Just being a Republican is not going to get somebody kicked out. Mm-hmm. But if they are, for example, they feel so strongly that they feel like this Democratic politician is getting away with something, then that could tilt towards they're a little too biased and they can't be on this jury.
Do they look at jurors' social media posts to see? Because this one sure was a hot one on social media. So
they do.
If juror number one posted negative things about Nicole Mitchell, they would know about that? Well,
it's the attorney's job to do that kind of research. And it's an important part. It's just, Nicole Mitchell has good attorneys. And so I guarantee that they have spent time looking through each potential juror's social media, whatever they can find. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of use it more as like, they'll ask them questions like, have you ever heard of this case? And then if they say, no, I haven't, well, now they have proof. And I'm like, okay, well, you posted here about it. Okay. So are you lying now? And then that could be a way to get a juror kicked off, during this selection process.
In this case, you cover more trials at KARE 11 than anybody within our news organization. Would you have to kind of foresee how it's going to go? Everybody wants to know, is Nicole Mitchell going to testify in her own defense?
She is. Yep. And her attorney has been pretty open about that. And that's really the only way for her to be not guilty. So there's two things that the prosecution needs to prove. They need to prove that she did not have permission to go in the house and that she went in the house with the intent to commit a crime. And so the crime that they're alleging is basically theft, but that's where you get into the gray area. I think it's pretty clear that she didn't have permission to go in there, unless the defense has text messages that say, yeah, you can come in my house anytime, something like that. But it seems that there was no permission to get in, right? So that
because why would you go in through the basement window?
In the middle of the night.
Right, in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And so the second part of like, was she actually committing a theft, or did she have intentions that were not criminal? Okay. That's what the defense is going to try to say. And how do you get there unless she testifies? So she's going to have to testify in order to get their side out, to kind of eliminate that second part of the second element that needs to be proven.
Right.
Or
so
at
do
least
you have to
prove
both elements? Because what if you decide as a juror, hey, those were your things, you went about getting them back the wrong way? So
that'd be not
guilty and guilty?
Because she's charged with first-degree burglary. There's lesser degrees of burglary where a breaking and entering, but that's not what she's charged with. She's charged with first-degree burglary. What you need to prove is that she did not have permission to be in there, and she got in, and that she had the intent to commit a crime. The crime doesn't have to be theft. There could be another crime. I mean, off the top of my head, can't think of it, but they seem to be saying that crime that she intended to commit was theft.
And lastly, testifying for the prosecution to prove the charges that they have brought, because it's their burden of proof, I assume, investigators, but also will they be calling the victim in this case, Carol Mitchell?
She's on the witness list, so we fully expect that she will testify. Now, I don't think we've mentioned in this segment here that she has Alzheimer's or dementia or some, sort of memory loss with age. And so that hasn't fully come out like officially, but Nicole Mitchell stated that on her very first social media post. Right after she was arrested. Mm-hmm. And so that's why she said she was going to check on her because she has Alzheimer's and so forth. So I think that that's going to come out at some point during the trial, probably early on, because that'll be a key part of it. And so will she testify? I think she's expected to, but there's always that chance that if she does have health problems and memory problems, like maybe not. So.
Right. Because as a prosecutor, you've got to weigh that.
Yeah.
Like,
mm-hmm.
Is it fair to put someone that has that medical condition? It's grueling for someone with a fully functioning memory. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine what it would be like with someone who's trying to retrieve memories they can't quite grasp.
Yeah. So I think the expectation right now is that she will testify, but that would be the wild card, that could come into play.
Okay. So we think openings could start as soon as tomorrow.
That's what we're expecting. Yeah.
How long have they scheduled the trial?
It says it's for a week, but we don't expect it to be done by Friday. And so if they get through all the witnesses by Friday, probably closing arguments on Monday of next week.
Oh, so pretty quick. And
yeah,
because
quick either way.
I won't make you do the politics of it for our viewers. There is no law in Minnesota. So say Senator Mitchell is convicted, it does not bounce her from her Senate seat. That would take another action if it comes to that point. It's not an automatic thing. But one of the reasons, in addition to the story being so exciting, or exciting is the wrong word, pardon my descriptive there, the story just being kind of so outrageous, is that the Senate is hanging in that balance of power.
Yeah,
so I mean that's
election. What brings the high interest. I mean, a family-related burglary case we would never cover if it wasn't Nicole Mitchell, a politician,
of power
a person of public interest.
All right. Well, we look forward to, finding the truth in this trial, as all of them. We'll be talking to you, I bet, a few times through this. Lou Raguse, we thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's all for Breaking the News Plus on this Monday. We'll see you later.